window from construction standpoint. In the next RFP will be the two ends of E and the center of B, because those are also within about an 18-month time window of each other. So those locations that you see on the map that aren't in this RFP yet will be in the next RFP. As for the deferred spaces, those are deferred growth spaces. We don't want to build the house for today. We want to build it for 2020 and beyond. So the deferred spaces are actually like growth space in the event, way down the road in the event employments just go through the roof and we need more seating and whatnot, we can grow into the deferred space.
So I would anticipate after we finish the B's and the E's, that we would probably let Terminal C in 2013. Well, they said that it's got to be 13 because they're saying that Terminal A will be totally complete by the fall of 2014. So we would be out a year in front of that. So there'll be an RFP next year, there'll be one after that, and then there'll probably be one after that as we look at some of the, because we're looking at piecing in various locations in the Terminal D. We'll probably defer quite a bit of the concepts in D, but we're going through that exercise right now. So by the time we finish with all of that, it'll be time to perhaps look at some of the Terminal A all over again. So we're in this for the long haul. Yes.
Hi, Kevin. I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I'm a little slightly confused on the 25%. As it reads in the RFP, no concession may own more than 25% of concession leased locations for any line of business. So that would mean nobody could own more than 25% for retail or 25% for food and beverage.
Right.
But the statement was for 25% of what was currently out for bid. So could you help me on that one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. In order to ensure that we manage both the solicitation awards as well as our policy in regards to how many any one entity can own of all of our concessions locations, we're staying true to the 25%. And it'll all add up in the end, I guess, so to speak. That if you're only getting 25% now, each solicitation, that you won't exceed the cap when the entire terminals, all of the terminals have been built out. And based on what that cap is, if we're anticipating somewhere about 200 locations in the future, then no one entity would be able to have more than 50 locations of our concessions program. And since we're piecemealing it out like this, it's just easier to kind of keep a handle on it, because the other thing too, if you win everything in B and E, when C comes around, you won't be eligible to bid because you will have reached your cap. So it's one of also trying to ensure that the concessionaires also have the opportunity to kind of flex over the terminals as well as to kind of manage their overall portfolio.
Hi. Kevin, I'm a little confused. I'm looking at this list.
I'm confusing everybody
I'm
today.
sorry. Oh, this list of packages that was available from your website,
Right.
It looks like you have an opportunity here, which is considered a sports bar, FB10.
Correct.
Now, is that part of phase 2 or 3? Because I didn't see that during the presentation today.
FB10 was removed in the addendum last Friday. FB10 Sports Bar is actually, and we're living in a very fluid world with this trip construction. The phasing line for between phase 1 and phase 3 of Terminal B moved. So the sports bar actually falls into phase 3 now. So it'll be in the future RFP.
Okay, and one last question. So for these individual units, do you have CAD files available for the blueprints?
We will have the LOD files are available right now.
Okay.
Once selected, Kevin, I believe we will have CAD files available once. Okay.
That's after selection or before?
Do we have those available now? That'll be after selection.
Thank you.
I have two questions. The first one is FB10, which you said which was pulled. Do you anticipate when it gets re-released in a future RFP that it's going to be a bigger square footage or same as what was released?
No, it's going to be the same as
Same.
what's on the map right now.
Okay.
We're fairly locked into the square footages that we have.
Okay.
And we're going to try and stay fairly consistent with the concepts that we have targeted right now. We may change a little bit once we see who goes in to these terminals to see if we've got the right mix.
Okay.
But as you see it now is probably where it's going to be.
Okay. And the second question is, so Nola, can you elaborate a little bit more on for the evaluation criteria, the bonus points? Have y'all ever done that before? Is this the first time? Kind of what are you looking for somebody to earn the bonus points and the?
Bonus points were awarded to existing concessionaires that were losing their space because of TRIP. 2 years ago, working with the board and with the concessionaires, we developed a program based on the top 35% performers in sales, in mystery shop scores, and lease compliancy, meaning they paid the bills on time, so they didn't have any demand letters, et cetera. That was kind of the entry to get in. And then we looked at it based upon 10 different categories. So whether it was services or convenience retail or specialty retail, what have you, we bucketed all the different concepts together or the different leases underneath that, and we took the top 35% that had great sales performance or customer service performance. And then they were awarded bonus points. So those bonus points, they are, and I think that's also on our website. We've got a big presentation on that in terms of incumbency points. They are, those points are awarded during the RFP process. It's up to 10 points that they could have won, 5 for customer service and up to 5 for sales. So during the RFP process, after the selection committee goes about and says, okay, they've done their scores, audit comes around and they plops into points, and then we'll take a look and determine, after everything is in place, which locations or which entities would come in for interviews possibly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Excuse me, in Terminal A, there were some operations.
Wait a minute. I'm the only one that could hear you, and I don't know if that's good. I hear you a lot.
Okay. In Terminal A, there were some operators, some operators that were able to keep their existing units going into the new contracts.
Keep their what?
Their existing units.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any? Is that the same case here? And
Yes, we do
who is it?
have locations that are going to be retained in B and E. The Fridays location in both B and in Terminal E will be retained. I think those leases expire in 2018. The Starbucks location at B28 Cyber Cafe will be retained. The McDonald's location in B Bravo will be retained. What am I missing? Oh, and then there was one location in which that concessionaire had purchased from an operator who had gone that needed to sell, and then we found out about TRIP. So rather than have him spend money, the board said, okay, let's just hold it and give him a new location when it's done. So those are the ones that are going to be retained. There were 7, I think, in A. Oh, yeah, in E34 Starbucks. So they're kind of sprinkled around, but there'll still be a coffee that can be voted on. There's still a casual dining that can be voted on. There's still a fast food that's available as well.
I have a follow-up, but I'll ask you after.
Well, and those were retained. What we looked at was which locations were going to be more than half of their lease remaining after TRIP, and the board elected to retain those locations rather than buy them out, since they still had more than 50% of their lease remaining. And so that's how they were retained. Yeah, and I think Kevin's telling me that they're like hatch marks there, so you can see which ones have been retained. Okay, it's, okay, yes.
Zanola, you might have answered it, I just, it's not computing here. Those that are being retained, and there's a 25% cap, does that play a part in the cap, or
We add all those locations together that are in the
terminal?
terminal.
Okay. I'm not sure I contemplate that, but
If they haven't been built up.
I'm sorry, so in that case, the cap is based on the terminal? Or are you just, or are you using a mechanism for each RFP saying, you know what, just to make this process a little fluid, we're going to say 25% per proposal, but in truth, is the cap really by terminal?
At the end of the day, the 25% cap is airport-wide.
Oh, airport.
But because we are in such a fluid movement over the next 7 years, the denominator in the number to figure out the cap is going to change.
Got it.
So if we said you can have 15 locations and then we shut down a third of the terminal, you'd have to lose 2 locations or you'd be over the cap.
Got
So instead of having to figure out that math every time we open and close things, we just said, let's make it simple, 25% of what we're tossing out. And if you're within that every time, you're going to be okay at the end of the day.
And you do it by stores, right? The number of stores.
I'm sorry?
The
Yes,
25%
total
by
number of
stores.
locations.
So, Dr. Jim, did that answer? It is by request for proposal.
Well, I think you kind of answered the question. It was that
Yeah.
it was per company. No company, no matter what the mix is, whether you joint venture with somebody, whatever, at the end of the day, whether you're husband and wife and you decide to bid separately, at the end of the day, you cannot have more than 25%.
That's right.
In whatever category.
Absolutely.
Or retail.
That's right. What's your name? We're going to be good friends. What's your
Tom
name?
Kornacki, I'm with Hudson. No. Drake Beaton with Pacific Gateway Concessions. Roddy said to say hello.
Okay.
Okay, so, and I again, geez, I'm so sorry. So
That's
it's
okay. Ask them
25%
now.
cap. There's a. So the cap is 25%. You've got 15 retail locations going out. So winning package number 1, which has 4 locations, is higher than the 25% cap. Is that not correct?
Yeah, and we're going to have to amend that because the location count changed after we released, so we'll put an addendum out.
Yeah,
Okay,
we lost.
Addressing that.
that's where I was trying to clear my
Yeah.
head. And I have one more question while I've got the microphone. And this is probably just a coffee thing. I can't find the sales reports. Are they on there? The current the sales for those locations. Do you guys provide the sales locations? I'm sorry, the sales by locations.
Yeah, we've had this question a time or two in addendum already, and we've somewhat held back from doing sales by location because none of the locations there are going to be there when we're done. So we didn't want to mislead people and say, hey, if you're in a newsstand, you're going to do X. That newsstand is going to be a TSA checkpoint by the end of the day. So we haven't given out sales by location. What we do have is sales by terminal, and we've talked about giving some information on, and I believe what we put out on the website shows some seasonality, total sales.
Right.
And what we can also do is kind of some average sales per square foot by categories and things like that, if that would help.
Yeah, I think that would help because where I'm having a problem is actually trying to get to the justification, not just for you guys, but also to my board of directors, just to project out what those sales are. Thank you. Sorry to take so much time.
That's okay. What's your name again? Anyway, this is good. I mean, I'd rather you guys ask questions. If there's things that we can answer now, you've given us some really good feedback. And quite frankly, we kind of missed the thing on the math there because when they snatched back our location, we didn't go back and relook at what we were saying was 25%. So we may have to eat a couple of things in order to just kind of keep things moving. Come on, Dr. Jim. Okay, all right. Well, if you guys can indulge me, I do want to leave you with a video of the locations that are going to be coming in Terminal A. And then after that, have safe travels. And please pick up the phone, call procurement, email us. You should have special little cards. We have cards out at the table. And thank you so much for coming.
So I'd like to see shops.
Restaurants.
It's Brandon.